Hey BookTube, this is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. I am here today with my husband Jason of Old Blues Chapter and Verse.
Howdy.
And last year, we watched 4 film adaptations of Emma, and I will link to that video down below. But many of you asked why we hadn't watched Clueless. And by the time I got around to asking Jason if he wanted to watch Clueless with me, he was kind of Emma'd out, if you will. So we just got done watching this, and we deliberately did not talk during the film.
It was my first time seeing it.
So now we're going to have a discussion about it. So I have seen Clueless. The first time I saw Clueless was, I think, 1996. And I loved it then, and I love it now. But Jason, what did you think? This modern adaptation of Emma. Or the 90s adaptation, maybe I should say.
So, no, it's still modern, I would say. So it was all right. It was okay. I hate Alicia Silverstone. I hate her.
The main character.
I've always loathed her as an actress. And I mean, around that time, and God, her career was really pretty short-lived. She doesn't do a whole lot these days. I've seen 2 things in the last couple of years that she's done probably in the last 15 years. And that's it. But when she was young and she was in this, and she was in, I think that's called The Crush with Carrie Elwes, which is a horrible film.
I haven't seen that. I remember Blast from the Past. Is that right?
That's probably the best thing she's ever been in. I would say, but yeah. So when she's playing these younger roles that she's supposed to be like the attractive young girl, et cetera, I never even found her attractive, right? So I don't think she's a very good actress, and I never thought she was pretty.
You don't think she's
as a young man? No.
As if.
Yeah. So I guess whatever, right? But yeah. So I think that's a big part of the reason why I never watched Clueless, is because I just never liked her. But she was okay in this. I mean, she was all right in this. Paul Rudd was good. It was funny seeing, I think his name's Jeremy Sisto.
Yeah.
In this as well. He's been in some things that I really like. He's in Grand Canyon, plays Kevin Kline, and Mary McDonnell, I think. Mary McDonnell's son. The one from Dances with Wolves.
I know who Mary McDonnell is.
Yeah.
I didn't know Jeremy Sisto was her son.
No, not in real life.
Oh,
the
you're
character
saying
in Grand Canyon.
Oh, okay, all right.
But anyway, so
It's been a while since I've seen Grand Canyon.
It's a comedy that made me laugh hard one time, is all. It made me smile a bunch, and there were a lot of moments in the film that made me kind of chuckle and go, shit, right? Like, I mean, so the pants on the ground thing. I hope I'm not the only person in the world who wishes that fashion statement would die 1,000 deaths, right? Salt the ground. Where like the trousers are buried. I had no idea that it dated as far back as this movie.
But I don't mean to use the word like so much.
Yeah.
Could be hard after this film. But didn't you think it was great that she thought that was a hideous fashion habit?
Well, it's because it's objectively a hideous fashion habit, right? It's their ass is hanging out of their pants.
Hey, would you watch your language on my channel, please?
If they sit on public transportation, their bottom, right? And I won't go into the disgusting, but
anyway.
But it's separated from the public seat by their underwear in which they fart and things.
Okay.
All right. So it's objectively a disgusting fashion statement. As far as this goes as an Emma adaptation, I thought there were some things that worked and some things that didn't work. I thought the whole getting the teachers together kind of thing was cute. And I really like Wallace Shawn, who played the debate teacher, the Yeah, Wallace Shawn is fabulous.
He's in The Princess Bride.
Yeah, I've never seen him in something where I didn't like him. So I thought that was cute. I thought the whole Elton thing was confusing because before Brittany Murphy's character, whose name escapes me now, Ty. Before she even enters the picture, there are scenes in the classroom with Elton sitting behind Cher, and they get their assignments back or something. He puts his arms around her and kisses her on the cheek.
Well, yeah, because he's so happy because she's made the teachers happy.
No, it seemed more like they were a thing.
Oh, okay.
And I was actually confused by it actually because the film seemed to set her up as somebody who wasn't involved with someone, and then it seemed like she was involved with someone, and then it turns out that was actually Elton, and then she's trying to hook Elton up with someone else, and then Elton actually has a thing for her, and so I thought that was not handled well at all. It wasn't. The writing I feel like was poor as far as that goes, and then also the Knightley character, the Paul Rudd character. It's not enough for that moment when Ty reveals that she's got a thing for him to share, and Cher's like, well, I don't understand and he finds all these ways to touch me and tickle me, etc. It's not enough for her to just tell us that we needed to have one or two scenes in the film in which we saw some chemistry between Paul Rudd's character, Brittany Murphy's character, so that we could see how she could be confused by how he was treating her. The only thing we saw was him dancing with her, and we didn't even see. There was not even a shot in that scene at the party where we see Paul Rudd seeing her and feeling sorry for her, and then dancing with her. We just see them like he's talking to a dude, and then Cher looks over and sees him dancing with her, and it's like, oh, it's so sweet, like he was dancing with her, etc., etc. Like we're not taken into the mind of the Knightley character in that moment nearly as much as we should be, and so so that all just felt a bit rushed and a bit unbelievable, but it was all right. It was There's way too much pink on the box. There's way too much. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, I think you're being too harsh.
Well, there were two scenes where I laughed hard. Like the interstate scene was hilarious.
Right, when they're on the freeway and they're all screaming.
Yeah, and then when the beatnik dude showed up to pick up Cher, and he was wonderful. Not the beatnik guy, but the guy who plays Cher's dad, Dan Hedaya, is the actor's name.
Very impressive.
And I always remember him from, he's got a great moment in Mulholland Drive. I don't know if you remember him from Mulholland Drive.
Let's not talk about Mulholland Drive.
Where he says, it's no longer your film.
Okay.
And it's very creepy and wonderful.
Clueless. Stick to Clueless.
So anyway, yeah, okay. I'm being too hard on it?
So you liked the scene on the interstates?
Yeah. Mostly because I could sympathize with it. I don't.
How terrified you would be on the freeway.
Yeah, I don't do that.
We're very much a street with two lanes kind of people. Yeah. I just think I think there's so many great lines in this film. The first time I saw it, and I've said this before, in a previous video, but the first time I saw it was my senior prom, and I didn't have a date, and I had a girlfriend who came over, and she and I went to prom stag, but we went together, and seeing this movie before the prom, it made it all kind of, I don't know. I mean, we were quoting lines the whole night from the movie. Like, we got to prom, and I said, let's make a lap before we commit to a location. And it just helped. I mean, when you go to your senior prom stag, I was fortunate enough to dance with someone during the evening, but that was about, I probably danced with one other person, and then it was just kind of a group dancing or whatever. But I think it helped me take the whole event maybe less seriously, like my senior prom, and it just made me have fun. And but I still think, I don't know, and maybe there's also just something in me. I do think that Alicia Silverstone is so beautiful. I
No.
I guess I'm lucky that you weren't on the lookout for a tiny blonde with long blonde hair. And yeah, so I think her matchmaking, all the matchmaking and all the kind of, doing good deeds sort of thing does tie up with Emma. And the absent, the mother that's gone. And
Well, the all the good deeds. I mean, yeah, it does tie up with Emma, but I think one of the reasons why traditional Emma adaptations work better is because I don't know, and it maybe it has something to do with the time, right? And with that whole Regency era, there was a kind of poise about the characters and about Emma in particular. And I think the fact in the traditional adaptations, the fact that her father is just so different from what he is in this film. In this film, like, he's really irascible and hot-tempered.
Well, that's true, but she does try to, like, I mean, Mr. Woodhouse is always worried about, is there a draft in the room?
Oh, no, that's true.
And that sort of thing, and Sheriff fussing over him, like, no, you can't eat the sandwich, and
But in the traditional
juice.
adaptations, there's something so kind of charming and kind of feeble and helpless about him that I think that it casts a flattering light on her. Something about the warmth of her father casts a light on her that makes it easier to feel affection for her. Whereas I feel like in Clueless, they take the most kind of, I don't know, the most obnoxious or rotten things about the character Emma, and they amplify them. And yeah, and so I when I watch Emma, any of the Emmas, right?
Right.
I mean, I get frustrated with the
the
character, but I never disliked the character. And watching Clueless,
And you did dislike Cher?
I dislike Cher. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
So-
She's fantastic. I mean, I definitely, I see what you're saying. I mean, in some ways, I do feel like, again, apologize for the legs, that her transforming Ty into someone she's not, very much like Emma does with Harriet Smith, kind of backfires on her. But Harriet Smith is never cruel to Emma, whereas Ty in this is cruel to Cher.
Well, I think there's just all around. I feel like there's more cruelty in this, and it's cruelty that's played for laughs in part, which is also something that doesn't sit terribly well with me, I suppose. What else was I going to say along those lines?
I have no idea.
Oh yeah, so for instance, like how I thought about Cher in the film, there at the end when Paul Rudd said, well, you should go shopping or something, and she said, "Is that all? Is that all you?"
I'm just a ditz with a credit card.
Yeah, am I just a ditz with a credit card? And I was thinking, yeah, well, you kind of are, So I don't know. I mean, it would be one thing, I suppose, right? I would have liked the film a little bit more if Amy Heckerling, the writer-director, had said, all right, I'm going to present the character of Cher in such a way that this kind of bubblegum ditziness about her is on some level a facade, right? It's something that she creates. It's a persona that she creates, that she's actually smarter than this. But I never felt like that was true. I never actually felt like that she was smarter than this, and she was kind of presenting herself in this way to be cool or to be accepted. I really felt like she was that dim. And so I think it would have been a more sophisticated film or we would have bought his affection for her, his love for her at the end more if she hadn't seemed like such a twit through the whole thing. But yeah,
Well, I just want to say in defense that I think this is a great movie, and maybe it's partly, nostalgia. Obviously, any modern retelling, like, it can't be exactly, Emma. And you haven't read Emma anyway, right?
True, yeah.
Right, so I read Emma last year, but I get there's just so many lines that I just think are really funny, and and I mean I won't deny my own inner envy, excuse me, of I know how beautiful Alicia Silverstone is. Her clothes.
You were way more beautiful than Alicia Silverstone.
Aww,
that's
so sweet.
Just so you know. Just so you know.
Well, it's not true, but anyway, nonetheless, but I think it's funny, and this is story arc. I mean, the whole thing when she's, buying, the idea that someone would buy herself, like, send herself flowers and chocolate to, like, make herself appear more desirable to a character is just so over the top, right? And then her whole relationship with Christian, and just not being able to see that he's not into girls. And if you watch that dance scene, you can see him kind of, checking out other guys, and kind of, like, momentarily dancing with other guys while he's dancing with Cher, or talking to the bartender or whatever. And so, and her whole plan of, like, lighting and all that, what she's gonna wear and everything when he comes over. I just thought, that all of that was, and that's kind of the Frank Churchill sort of part of Emma, which is greatly altered here, obviously, but like the line that she has of, he does dress better than I do, what could I bring to the relationship? It's just, I think it's witty and funny, and I guess I don't see it as being sort of like mean girls kind of thing.
I never saw Mean Girls either. So.
Well, that's for another day. But
so one, before we end this.
Okay. Yes.
One thing I'm curious to know about is, how does the age difference between Knightley and Emma translate to a contemporary setting?
That's actually great.
Because back in the day, right, within the Regency era and for centuries beyond that, it was much more normal for a man in his 20s or 30s or 40s or even older to marry a girl who is 16, 15, even 14 years old. And so granted, I feel like in Clueless, they shrunk the age gap between them.
Definitely.
But Paul Rudd is definitely a college boy.
Right.
She, at the beginning of the film, is 15 years old. At the end of the film, she is 16 years old. Does that work? Like, I feel like it works so much better in the traditional adaptations, just because that world was
because it was accepting of it.
Yeah. That's just how it was.
So the difference between Knightley and Emma in the book, I believe, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong down in the comment section, but I believe is 13 years.
Yeah.
And so some people struggle with that as they're reading Emma for the first time now.
Which is interesting, because I feel like any struggle with that is a struggle through the lens of the world that we have now. And I try to be, and I feel like and granted I haven't read Emma, but I feel like I'm pretty good about sort of checking my lens at the door. And reading a book set in the far past, or watching a film set in the far past, and not, kind of laying contemporary standards or mores or morals, et cetera, over the work like a stencil, and, demanding that it adhere to that. I mean, I have no, when I watch these older versions of Emma, I have no problems at all.
You mean the Regency set?
The Regency set. I have no problems at all that the characters are 13 years apart or whatever.
Well, and I mean, yeah, that really it changes things, right? I mean, Mr. Knightley is a teenager essentially when Emma is born.
Yeah.
Whereas here, so she's 16, so he's got to be, at least 21, right?
So let's say he's 21. So that means when he was driving, getting his driver's license and driving, she would have been 11. Okay, which seems a little bit strange. It seems a little bit odd.
But I mean, he also wasn't part of their life. Unlike in Emma,
Yeah, no, that's true.
He's not part of their, her. I mean, he's not around. He's not present when she's born, right? Because, what did Emma's or Cher's dad?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the.
I don't know how
It
many
wasn't
times.
explained as well as it could have been.
Oh, it was fine. It was fine. This is a detail. It's not as important. Anyway, I think Clueless is funny, and I think it holds up well over time. I mean, it is definitely late 90s, but
It's mid-90s, isn't it?
well, okay, yeah, mid to late. I mean, I saw it in 96.
Which was the mid-90s.
Okay, all right. Anyway, so but I think it still holds up well, or at least it does for me. We would love to hear what you think of Clueless in the comment section down below. And I'd like to thank Jason for being such a good sport and watching Clueless with me. Booktube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Adios.